In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Beginning is said to have been infinite, void, without shape or form. The greatest example that we can personify of that void right now is my water. In the midst of that void came a certain level of maturity that had the power to bring manifest all things. That voice said, "Let there be light." And there was light. Soon there were other words and combinations of such. A collection of words that spoke for the earth to separate the waters. And because we share the elements of the earth, we too can call ourselves earth. Greetings and welcome once again to another brick in the walls that we are building for our temple, our sacred space. The work being the affliction of the burning bush. And this is the bill. I will now bring forth my brother Eli as he will bring in the initial announcements, and then we will continue. Blessing.
Blessings, everyone. The words we are expressing freely are not meant to offend anyone. Our words are not meant to be in any competition with anyone else's wisdom. Your wisdom and understanding is yours alone. We are choosing to remain consecrated while being in the furnace of affliction, the burning bush. Conquering ignorance is essential. Nobody is born wise. A person has to make serious efforts to develop the qualities needed to be able to speak and achieve mayat without falling into the twin traps of vanity and greed. Every day the ears or the living have to be made to listen to words of wisdom. If the teachings is properly understood, then righteousness will become a reality. All of us, we love to portray ourselves with a vigilant heart, a plain tongue, capable of satisfying God, because our entire existence rests on knowledge and not on belief. A life-centered life is a way of living that conscious thought, and practice focus on the healthy growth and development on all living things. A life centered life is not a religion, is not a science, is not a social creed, and has no holy books. All existence is one being, one nature, one essence, one spirit. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. Nothing exists individual. Everything is dependent on something else. We exist because everything else exists. All existence is one unified whole. There is unity among all things. All life sustains life. Everything that exists sustains something else. All life is animate, alive. There is no such thing as inanimate. All existence is light. Light is what we call energy. All life is energy. This is what is meant by spirit. What we call spirit occurs in form both matter and energy. Matter and energy are the same. They continuously change from one to the other. Energy can become condensed, while in its condensed form, we call it matter. And in its uncondensed form, we call it energy. All life is intelligent. All life is sacred.
Indeed, all life intelligent, all life sacred. Today we are going to speak about nature in a way that for some might seem controversial because we are placing all within the same sacred space. The patterns and concepts along nature of animals in their natural habitats, the nature of humans in their unnatural ones, and the nature of the higher being, and placing them all in a potpourri of conversation to see which sense makes more of an alluring aroma to the sacred space, and which does not deem itself as pleasant to our palates, and dig deeper as to why. What is human nature? Is it an oxymoron? Is it something separate from the nature of beast and fowl and fish and serpent? Or are they very, very much alike? Some practices would say that humans are superior to animals, have dominion over beasts, which is the reason why they were named by man for their characteristics are studied and their attributes consumed. However, being that we are facts-based, there are certain patterns that have existed since the existence of beast and fowl and serpent and fish, and even the creepy crawling things, insects, that are quite similar to the personifications, the reactions, and emotions conducted by human beings, a few of which are quite controversial once explained. There are a few examples that I will provide, one of which is the swan. The swan is thought of as a beautiful creature, an elegant creature. We have been told stories, once child of the ugly ducklings that become beautiful swan. But did you know that swans, while in the state of being the ugly duckling, find their forever mate? This is in nature and has been recorded in esteemed publications via the National Geographic and many others. They find their life mate, and they do not part from their life mate for the entirety of their lives. The personification of a soulmate, which is the original Celtic heart that we see in imagery used for certain holidays within the human experience, Valentine's Day being one, is literally the silhouette of two swans as they are, with hooked necks and beaks, aligned together. This is the way they, the life couple, meet in the pond and neck each other in affection. Once the swan has to part from the other, be it for a time or forever, if the swan dies, soon the other swan doth pass away. It is not specifically determined that it is by anything natural, but poetically it is determined that it is because they have known each other for so long that they have believed that they are one being, and when that one being is cut in half, the other half cannot survive. We see this in human nature, in humans who have met their life mate at early ages and have lived for decades together. Once in old age and the decay of their anatomical structures due to disease overcomes one of the mates, the soulmates, that they must proclaim themselves to be. It is not far too long before the other one meets the one who left wherever they have ascended or descended. However, the nature of the animal kingdom has some things that do not seem as pleasant and is not as poetic, but are more to the surface of what we're speaking about today in regards to human nature. The panda, for example, in Asia. There is a certain mating dance of sorts, a fight of sorts amongst male pandas upon trying to appease a lover. They will not necessarily swing or scratch or wrestle, but they will extend their arms and their paws and slam bellies with the other male of the species. And this allures the mate, which she will choose who she will court and mate with. That is not the strange part. The strange part comes once the child is born, once the cub is conceived, once it is coming out from the mother panda. If the male panda does not in some way subdue or constrict the mother panda at the space where the child has been born, if it is left alone, it will walk away from the child that it has just left its body as if it did not happen. This is a deadbeat in nature. Even further, the controversial part, the primates, of which we have been told by nature, by certain theories that we have come from, or are containing certain links to, closest. The baboon has a sort of survival method. The female baboon, when in its natural habitat, will see the male baboon, and upon sight of the male baboon, if she is hungry, will begin to lie on her back and stimulate herself erotically as a means to not only bring attention to the male baboon, but as a means of survival, being that she deems herself far too weak to fend for her own food. The response from the male baboon is to climb to the highest height of the tree, bring forth the fruit, and feed the baboon as a reward for pleasing herself in front of him. This is where it gets interesting because the female baboon is of no consequence. It can choose whether or not it still wants to mate. Therefore, there are players and prostitutes in nature. There are many others examples, but we will start with these three. I will pass the speaking box to Elias for further iteration.
Thank you, Brother Michael. The definition of a prostitute is a person, in particular, a woman who engages in sexual activity for payment. Often, someone for sexual activity in exchange for payment. So, when Brother Michael spoke about the beasts, she will go, she will perform sexual acts on herself, and the other beast of the field will go up to get some fruit to pay the other beasts. Now, I adore their activity. I think it's an honorable thing. On the other hand, we talk about, Brother Mike said earlier, that human beings are supposed to be better than beasts of the field. The definition of a civilized man is described a person or their behavior as civilized. You mean that they are polite and reasonable. Civilized, it says, having highly developed society or culture, belonging to a civilization, show evidence of moral and intellectual advancement, humane, reasonable, ethical. That is being civilized in a civilization. What is an uncivilized man? Uncivilized means wild and barbaric, although people also use it to mean impolite. The uncivilized 3-year-old ate lasagna with their hands and then chased a cat around the house before their parents intervened. If a person is civilized, they behave politely. The example they gave is a 3-year-old child. So, from a civilized society, even if a 3-year-old act in such a way, it is considered uncivilized, a barbaric child. Because in some societies that human beings have elevated to the state of apotheosis, the highest state of human being. So let's go back to humans who are uncivilized, like the prostitute. If you look at a prostitute in modern terms is someone who basically exchanged something for something else. And since I am a balanced thinker, I do believe we need to put a little tighter bottleneck on the definition because we already know how humans think. Humans will say, oh man, don't a husband do that for a wife? The exchange. So we don't want to entertain that mind state. That is a waste of time. We want to talk about those who are on our level because we spend 90% of the time with those on that level. So you cannot continue to take up so much space. Let's talk about the ones who will look at a 3-year-old who is still developing their mind or functioning at the base of their cerebral cortex, the upper part of their spinal cord, as we like to say, the animalistic or the serpent level of thinking and behaving. Think about that. Think about a society that demands even 3-year-olds to be in a certain state of consciousness, that dwell in an environment that is controlled and that is sterilized and that is maintained. The parents of the 3-year-old, since they are civilized beings, they already respect the limitations of the 3-year-old child. Therefore, they put the child in a certain confined environment so that the child will not humiliate itself with its natural behaviors. These are mindful parents, civilized parents. So we need to quiet up the minds of those who might be a little lazy, who do not support the consciousness of the 3-year-old, meaning that they will put the 3-year-old in front of a something and have the food there and just have the 3-year-old have its way. And then consciously, not verbally, talk about the disaster the child make, food over the floor and all over the place. So we remove ourselves from you and those types because you exist as well. You have so much space over the internet that we smile and giggle. But in this space, we trying to show those who consider things like that, who consider the sense of dignity and refinement, and even in the space of a child who is 3 years old. They may set up a nice bib and they may chop the food a certain way, and they may be enough or loving enough to feed the child, to have the food and maybe sing a song and feed the child. And while the child is putting the food in the mouth, they will cup their hand underneath so the food will not fall down on the table. So you have levels of love and levels of consideration. And I am tired of those judging those who might have the fortitude to do such a thing. They label people who love cleanliness when all of existence respect and demand their level of cleanliness. Period. So again, we are going on different levels, and we are going to talk about those that might be on another level that is from the norm, because we know the norm is ha 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 ha. Look at Johnny. He is learning how to control his hands, thus having food all over his face and things of that nature, in comparison to those who may not. Because actually, that is my first time reading that 3-year-old perspective that was posted on the internet. So that's why I elaborated from that perspective, because I myself, I did both. I took pictures of a young gentleman having spaghetti all over himself and enjoyed a laugh from that, even to this very moment. Having said that, I was not groomed in a society that I was supposed to be groomed in, because my DNA is connected to something that is more regal than the environment I grew up in. Therefore, you will see me in the ghettos of America watching powder wig movies of royalty, even to this very day. All right, Brother Michael, that's my little part on that little section. So I won't be too long winded on what is a civilized man or woman and what is a uncivilized man or woman. And the uncivilized man or woman is in alignment with the beast who play with themselves on certain levels in exchange for food, but not in the refined stages of marriage and a level of marriage which produce a level of fortitude. Because again, we're going to have people to say, well, married couples do that, exchange one for the other, but however, it's not the same, because there are more level of commitment when it comes to a marriage, even on an energetic level. is committed compared to someone that you just see and pay and off they go.
Great elaboration on the 3-year-old child. Also, as a parent of children, of which I did not see at that age, I met my children, being a elected father, a stepfather, at the ages of 7 and 5, and seeing how much refinement they were still in need of. Deeply appreciate that. However, I'm thinking of raising a child. It makes me think of yet another animal. It makes me think of the penguin. Now, there's a certain species of penguin whom, once the egg is made present, it is the woman that gives the egg to the male penguin to keep warm. An amazing amount of dedication for this, to carry the egg. However, there is something else about that same penguin, that same species, that deems more towards human nature than both of us would desire. Brother Eli spoke of, in another build, off of camera, a situation in which penguin, as a means of communicating to a potential mate that they are fit, would have a certain amount of pebbles graced across their countenance, in front of them, in front of their feet. And apparently, the penguin that had the most pebbles would get the female penguin. The one that had the most rocks got the girl. Interesting how tuxedos have tails that we wear at gatherings of communion. How there were throughout history many different balls and social gatherings of dance where you were highly encouraged, required even, to dress in a certain attire. To this day, we have galas where we must dress in a certain attire. And the most traditional of such, cummerbund, bow tie, vest is optional, blazer, overcoat, resembling in its natural colors a penguin. And I can do more than surmise that at certain balls and galas, there are certain rocks that are adorned upon before the countenance is even seen. And the one with the most rocks gets the girl. Human nature. But what of the poor righteous teacher? What of the heartfelt parent who chooses to be a better version of themselves, if for no one else but for the sake of a child who should be brought up in not the way that they are, but in the way that they should go, passing forth the baton to being better than we ever could be. Insects are even more interesting when it comes to children because there are insects who, if they are at the certain temperament, will devour their young. They will eat them. They will consume them whole without any warning to the child. And how many of us in that human experience witness other humans consuming the child, not necessarily literally, but commercially, but in publicity, almost marketing their child as a means for attention to be paid to the parent. These interesting patterns, the animal kingdom and human nature, are too common to not bring forth to recognition to those who do not pay attention to nature. We could go on and on forever regarding human and animal nature, but we're going to dig into God and spirituality and the spiritual nature in comparison to humans in just a moment.
Blessings again, brother. Um, I was actually looking up um, being barbaric and a barbarian to go more into what is a civilized person and what is an uncivilized person. And the reason why I really want to interject in that is because people would like to say, well, you are no better than I am, and only God can judge me. These individuals do not know the implication of their behaviors. How is it possible that Mary of the Bible, who her father found always in the synagogue praying, compared to another female who was mischievous, who do things for the purpose of instinct? Like, she may put her hair in a certain way, she may position her legs in a certain way, even how she walk, all these behaviors. And I am going to tell you this. One is civilized and one is uncivilized. And I will make a distinction between the two. So, behavior. Uncivilized means wild and barbaric, impolite. The definition of barbaric, because we are speaking English, and if I say the sun is bright, so if you go outside, you might want to put on some sunscreen, because the, the reason why I say that, because again, there are so many humans who refuse to develop themselves, and these people would just say anything. So that's why I gave a definition, because words mean something. So again, in the burning bush, we are going to the meaning of things, because most humans go on the feeling of things. with their feelings are not correct at all by no means. So the definition, like if I say I have a car and someone asks me what type of car do I own, and I name the car and I give the specific color, the person would not necessarily have to visually see the vehicle at the moment to know exactly what I am talking about. So let's remove those people out the way. Flee, please. So we using words. Definition. Barbaric means savagely cruel, exceedingly brutal, primitive, unsophisticated. These are the meanings of words. So when we are talking about God, God, from my perspective, because again, I can only speak about my perspective, I see extreme excellence. I see something that is constant. I see something so marvelous that sometimes I literally about to faint because my consciousness takes me to so many levels and I'm trying to comprehend because some mornings or sunrisings, I don't even want to get out the bed. I am like, wait a minute, how am I in a essence that is forever giving and constant, yet I have to propel myself to exist in an existence that will cease to exist? Even while I am sleeping, someone already created a dream world for me to exist in while my body is existing on the earth in a physical world with blood vessels and heartbeat and oxygen all at the same time. So when I think about God, I think about something so supreme that hate deplorable things. And that is why bacteria and other things exist, because it will cause trouble to the things that are out of line with itself. Because existence is moving towards a direction. So we are talking about, me specifically, are talking about a God of excellence. So Mary, the mother of Jesus, or the Mary that is Kemet, or righteous women are far different from the mischievous women. This is a book about a nun. This is another book about a nun. This is another book about some nuns. And I finally found Mother Teresa's book. So I am enthralled with women who try to be righteous. There is a difference, and I will not disrespect those who have the same nature of uncivilized women, yet they strive to be like the Messiah they love. I adore those women. I am near 50, and I'm telling you, the way women are specifically when it comes to being divine are very few. Because when you go to these nunneries, if you will, there are very few women that love to stay on a straight path. Because remember, we are evidence based. We love evidence. So if you have this type of woman, some of us adore such a pleasurable being. So when it comes to being godly for us, and I'm going to speak for myself specifically, I see excellence beyond measure where particles reach to their exact destination. And I'm going to use the sun, for example. The sun is 93 million miles, but everything is on point. That is not low life. That is not savagery. That is high majesty from my perspective. So, being civilized, from my perspective and observation, even people who had near death experiences, when they spoke about they saw angelic hosts that came and they were so regal and they were so afraid to be dishonorable before these beings. So I'm talking about that perspective compared to raunchiness, savages, uncivilized folk. There are differences. There you go, Brother Mike.
Savages. The word has turned from something that European settlers would use as a means to defame culture. Upon discovery of said culture. From that to it being a term of endearment. How many beings have you heard call themselves savages as a means of a term of endearment, as a means of pride in the self for something that they have done for ill-gotten gains, playing the hurt game with folk who do not wish to play? There are clothing lines that will place this word as an incantation on your breastplate, on your bottom of pants, on your private parts. Savage Fenty is a brand name that places this as its tag on every article of clothing. These are considered luxurious items, and there is not a single item that is under the cost of $50 and well over the cost of hundreds of dollars upon purchase of this savageness that they choose to wear upon their temples. If that is not a desecration of the temple, I do not know what is. But to continue with Brother Eli in his speaking of God and supreme countenance and glory, of which even the most civilized human bows down before, in embarrassment to make sure that they do not insult such immaculate existence. That has few examples here on earth. One of which can be controversial thought of as being forced upon. We may not have a Mary in a synagogue, but we do have Hafiz, children who will recite in its entirety entries of the Quran, of which is beautifully articulated as a song, even if you do not know the words, it brings forth peace upon all who witness it with their ear. There is something to be said about the young who are on this path, because us that deal in terms of time can actually say, in our limited flesh existence, can say we can give a time of research to watch this Hafiz develop, to see what rewards are rendered to said child. Such a beautiful to behold. Most people think of God as something that I just looked up at, a sky father, a person to give their wish list to. But I know that God exists in the oneness of all beings, which allows human nature to run its course because the gods deal in time, which allows the animal kingdom to do what it believes it must because it is given a time. Over 30 years only, 30 years, we as a human experience have undergone so much change to the point where the child that is born in this era will be able to choose its mentality and even its gender, whether or not it thinks of itself in its emotions as a man or a woman. It is customizable, as if the gods made mistakes. I cannot ask God itself if that is an insult, but I can surmise that anything that would state in any minute way that mistakes were made by gods can be considered utter blasphemy to said God. There are, according to the word Bible, few things that God indeed hates, two of which are blasphemy and harming of anything or anyone. We have spoke in previous builds about God hating bullies and everything that goes under the umbrella of bullies. These bullies are not at all civilized. They choose uncivilization. They choose anarchy. They choose to defame the nature of universal law and manipulate it to their own carnal desire. We must speak of these, to be aware of these, to know the ledge so that we do not fall off. It is the only reason why we bring this attention to the human nature of these savages, who are indeed animals, underneath their mechanical gods, greed and vanity, which are made by men. We must know these intricacies. We must know this quilt that has been built to cover us from the face down, to take us out from the air we breathe, that is indeed sacred. So, what does this mean when it comes to this speaking on savagery and civilization? In order for a civilization to continue to thrive, there are roles that must be brought to task and turned to continue the family line. This is a trinity of sorts: the man, the woman, and the child. And if these, which we have always thought of, if not uttered completely, gifts from God, the child, a choice and a chance for something better, that we teach civility, and honor, and lauding of civilization to said child. And they do the same, and upward and onward. That one day they too will see the God in them and understand all of the nature around, within, and beneath. That is a letter, a love letter to ourselves. That letter is a scarlet H that does not stand for hell, that is burned in embers or sulfur shirts, as we have taught, but hope, a more dangerous word. Hope is what the affliction is. Hope that in the burning bush we will become refined. Hope that one generation of children will supersede the greatest versions of ourselves and show us and teach us how to be. And the savages who laugh now, who enjoy their rewards now, will indeed cry later. Even that is a hope. That reality has not yet truly shown us. That's what makes hope a dangerous thing. It is something that is not guaranteed. Love is not guaranteed neither. But love, in one of those 70 definitions, is actually a stage in mania. It's a part of insanity that dares you to do silly and mighty things with one person, with a people, to show your heart to, almost literally ripping it out of your body as a means to bleed for someone else to live. If we were to dare the mighty thing, to take away our mindset for a moment from savagery to civility and learn about being greater civilization, you will find more respect for the God around and in us. That is at least the goal that is set while in the burning bush. Because even within the flames therein, there are places that are slightly cooler. Not all of it burns even, and that is the reason why bad things happen to good people. And we say, it's life, it's human nature. I've yet to cry out tears of diamonds, but I know of a brother who does. I've said so much. I pass to you.
To reiterate that point with the penguins and the attire of people, that was amazing. That was amazing. Everything I listen to, for the most part, I visualize in my mind. When we look at the penguin, because what happened was it was a scientist that observed these penguins, and he played not a game, but he wanted to truly understand or have some type of understanding if it was true or not when it concerned these pebbles or rocks. So when the penguins were resting, he will give another male penguin these rocks. Then he will find the females migrate to the other penguin. So they saw a value that was not themselves, that was something outside of themselves. So let's look at the polite society, the civilized society, the elite who have these balls for marriages. They will wear these tuxedos with the tails, which and the colors are black and white. And in this type of environment, the women that attend these gatherings are looking for a husband of substance who may have a lot of material things, money, just like the female penguins go after the one with the rocks. So I look at the similarity between the two because in this other society that teach etiquette and all type of things, there are layers in that particular group as well. Most of these people exist because of an ancient great grandfather. Most royalty, those who will sit in the seat of king or queen for the most part, have a lineage that is connected to a prophet of God. And when you look at their ancestor, for the most part, they were extremely knowledgeable. So knowledge is king and queen, to be exact, when it comes to a level of being a civilized compared to being an uncivilized, barbaric being. For some reason, the penguin presents rocks as a form of technology, such that the women will see that. In the event where the women go to look for a wealthy husband, and the husband and men wear penguin suits, tuxedos that have a tail, and the colors are black and white. There is a judgment. And these societies, You will have to be in a particular lineage that been wealthy for an extensive amount of time. They did not consider new money folk. So I'm not necessarily going to go deep on many levels, but I would like to mention this. When we are continuously talk about those who may exhibit certain behaviors, I will continue to explain that it is okay to live in these realities. It is okay to have your children to do these things. All this circle is saying is, please leave that in you guys' spaces and area, and leave us in an area that is not molesting our minds to the point that you are molesting your minds in such a way. That's all we're saying. And since we are speaking on the internet, we have to talk about things of concern. Even if we was in our specific society, we will talk about these things, notwithstanding the fact that individual in our environments will not take things so personally. Therefore, we can speak on all types of things, knowing that we will not offend no one because we are searchers of truth. We are demanding the knowledge of the laws of cause and effect, which is not personal. Since we are an environment that we are not excluded yet, we have to give these things, these words, to show that we are not judging, but we are talking about issues that concerns us. For example, due to observation of unintelligent and intelligent humans, when you go buy a bag of fruit, for some reason, if one is rotten, the others will decompose faster than normal. So we know the laws of cause and effect when you have such uncivilized beings dwelling among others, which might not be personal. I would like to say this. Perhaps we found 10 people. I will use 20 people. We found them to be healthy and happy. Now, this 21st person may have walking pneumonia or common cold. For some reason, this one sick person can affect most of the other individuals. I never understood that. The question that I arise to or came up with many years ago, I think I was 19 years old, I asked this mental question. I said, well, if there are more healthy people, why not the health supersede the one ill? Why the healthy person do not make the one sick person healthy? Because there's more healthy people than the one sick person. Why nature prefer the power of one person when it comes to that specific subject? I never understood that even to this day. It doesn't make sense. That is why we are trying to build a wall, a thick wall, just like heaven and hell. Even hell have a wall. Heaven, there is walls. Because I appreciate those who appreciate themselves. I admire the alcoholic, the prostitutes, and other people because they have a right to exist. And some of us who choose not to exhibit those behaviors, we have a right to exist in our space without being judged, without being called, who are you? Ha ha ha, that's his Mr. or Mrs. Goody Two Shoes. Okay, well, you are Mr. and Mrs. Savage Two Shoes. What is wrong with being good or goody? We'll accept that. And you accept savagery as well. So I believe that there is room for all. But again, as humans, we just speak words and they get so offended over words. And these words don't have nothing to do with the reality of your lives. And that's why it's so sad that we have to continue to talk about these things because most of you get offended over words on the internet, just like people fight their relatives physically and physically go to war over books that were written many years ago, like a Bible or Quran. People will literally fight over examples and scenarios that they didn't even live in. That behavior supersedes an uncivilized, barbaric savage. That is demonic. Because most of you satanic and demonic children of God will hate someone to judge you off of a rumor. So if you will hate someone from judging you off of a rumor, why will you fight someone with intense anger over words and stories and books that was written thousands of years ago? There is something wrong with your soul. That part of you is demonic. It is lower class. No one will accept to be humiliated and mocked and even murdered over a rumor. These same human beings, some will be in a household watching a sports or watching sports on TV, and they will physically fight and have anger over something that is on a TV screen, watching people who they don't even know personally. And these people are getting paid millions of dollars while these people may be living in a smaller situation. I cannot relate to those people. So I'm just giving an example between humans. That's all I am doing. It is not a judgment, it is an observation. Because there are many things while I was growing up in the ghettos that I didn't accept. I didn't accept the 40-hour bound. I've been through so many things, and that's why I can speak on things because all of us were tested. And I still do not like stuff like that. I don't like party houses because my house wasn't a party house, but I listened to children who we were in the same age group. They really hate their home being a party house. They hated being up so late when people party and did drugs and fought at night after the drugs and the card game went away. Yet these same people grew up and did things to their children. So I cannot relate. I refuse your consciousness. I prefer my direction, which I have a right to go. So on that note, Brother Mike, again, we just have to reiterate we have a right to discuss these things because this is a platform of words. We're using words and we are using examples that we did not create and we are not God. But we do have a right to say, this turtle pie tastes so good. Because I remember I had turtle pie and I was looking at it, even though I can eat them today. I was walking by like, man, no one is watching. I want to eat a little piece of turtle pie, but it was not a small one in there. It was the big one. See how things, I said, nah, I'm not going to eat the big one. So I had to walk by with the desire because watching so many people pass away, sometimes like, man, why you want to live to be 120 years old? Because we all have emotional things. I love talk about my complete self. So that's why when I'm talking to my upper self, I am very forceful because I'm a complete package. I tell my highs and my lows willingly and openly for those who know me. There you go, Brother Michael.
Wow. I had to look up for the first time for myself the origin of Goody Two Shoes. I'm going to share that with you. The history of Little Goody Two Shoes is a children's story published by John Newbery in London in 1765. The story popularized the phrase goody two shoes as a descriptor for an excessively virtuous person or do gooder. I am going to repeat that line again. The story popularized the phrase goody two shoes as a descriptor for an excessively virtuous person or do gooder who findeth a woman findeth a good thing, but who among them is a virtuous woman? Many of this species claim to be virtuous women. Now, Goody Two Shoes is an excessively virtuous woman. The picture depicted on the original publication is of a woman with a head covering, a full dress that only reveals her ankles. I had to share that. To do-gooders, goody two-shoes. For those who are witnessing my voice and this circle, who have been not self-proclaimed, but crowned with the thorns of affliction, that you were a goody two-shoes. Take that crown as your royal adornment, the same way Christ has been written that he had done. For it is truly an adornment of virtuosity for only you to wear. That has got to be a blessing to someone who is witnessing my voice right now. You goody two shoes. I will assume this rather than a savage as a term of endearment, as a supreme term of endearment. Mary was a goody two shoes. She was excessively virtuous, a do gooder, and she got her reward. Gave birth to a goody two shoes who was excessively virtuous, and he got his reward. Elijah Muhammad was a goody two shoes. He, blessed be upon him, got his reward. To the goody two shoes out there, we witness you. We watch in awe. We record the dates we listen to you, ye Hafiz, to calm ourselves in this chaotic world. We are thankful for not the savages, but the goody two shoes.
Oh man, I appreciate that, brother. I really appreciate that. I am a goody two shoe person. I try my best. I hope and pray I can be a goody two shoes because when you look at, because again, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. The number one cause of death is heart attacks. Isn't your heart being a goody two shoes pumping and function right? Excessively pumping right for you? The sun, moon, and stars is excessive when it always dwells properly within its state. The earth, the cells in your body decide to be very excessive while you might be drinking, smoking, partying. They are working excessively to eliminate that from your body. The internet, when the internet is always streaming excessively without any breaks. We adore things of that nature. I will read the definition of apotheosis because we are trying our best. Let me tell you something. And the reason why me personally don't give a hoot on your opinion on my regalness in this circle is because righteous people worry about the day they die. So in this circle, we are being goody two shoes individuals who wearing goody two shoes because we want you in your senior years to really value your life while you were younger. Think about that. All these people who followed pimps and lowlives, they have so many things, so many levels of regret when they get to a certain age while they're dealing with their grandchildren or great grandchildren. What is wrong with individuals trying to put those who might be young and they in our goody two shoeness constantly deciding to do things excessively, deciding to do right excessively. So when they get to the point, if God willing, to live to be 80 and 90, they can look back and feel satisfied as a being compared to those who do all these things excessively a fool, excessively a drunken, excessively a liar, excessively a schemer, excessively a conniver, excessively an uncivilized being. We have the evidence. That is why I like to live this particular way because I watched those people while they were on their deathbeds. They really regret their behaviors. So there's nothing wrong with me or others to always be a goody two shoe type of person, to be excessively doing right or trying to do right. Because when this person look back on their lives as an older person, they will say, yes, I feel good on my behavior compared to saying, oh, I'm going to die with a lot of regrets and secrets. Blessings. Now, let me go into apotheosis. Potheosis. Apotheosis is called divination or deification, is the glorification of a subject to divine levels, and commonly the treatment of a human being, any other living thing, or an abstract idea in the likeness of a divinity. That is apotheosis, the elevation of someone to a divine status. Now, Mother Teresa was a goody two shoe type of person. Some people did judge her because she did some things from an Indian perspective. They look at certain things not necessarily in the eyes of torture, but some Americans judge her because of that. So let me read something of this goody two shoer. All right, goody two shoe woman. Mother Teresa's inner pain did not diminish. She longed to unburden her soul to someone she trusted, yet she did not. She found it harder to communicate with her spiritual director, Father von Ik Exam, EXEM. Her great reverence for God's actions in her soul, especially the mystical experiences related to her call, made her reluctant to open her soul to anyone else. So she chose to suffer this ordeal in silence rather than disclose the secrets of my love for Jesus and his tender love for me. All that was left was to write to Archbishop Prier. I think it's a French name. That is one example of many. Like she even wrote some letters to certain people in her authority, speaking about so much discomfort and pain that she didn't believe Jesus was even with her, yet she continued her mission. So we do have some goody two shoe people that the world seemed to adore. Martin Luther King, the big example, he was a goody two shoer in certain aspects. And that's why we memorialize him. We memorialize the concept of Jesus Christ. He was a goody two shoer all the way to the end of death. So those of us who going to mock us saying that, ha ha ha, well, please go and continue to mock us. We don't care because time is writing down our efforts. So being a goody two sure is amazing. And I love women who love to be a goody two sure because I have experienced multiple layers of those who are not. They are more like the penguin, those who consider something outside themselves greater. And I hope that we can have many segments on what we consider marriage to be. Blessings.
We will begin transition into our after hours section, which, if anyone here has witnessed, definitely dives deeper into those layers. But for those who have taken the foundation that we have brought forth today, we will give them their time, for it is valuable to us as our time is valuable to them. And we will go forth with our benediction, but then, after a brief break, we will return for our after hours. Let us remember that before we were earth, before we had taken this form of flesh, which is finite, we were a divine idea, a thought that grew into a word that was uttered for us to be. Because of that, we must give thanks to the Father of these things, the one that came before, which begat this thing that we experience called life, the light. For the candle cannot complain, nor has it ever complained. Instead, it emits itself, then admits to itself that it is everything needed. It is the light, and we are that light. We will not blow this candle out and away from us. That would be a disservice to knowing what our purpose is, the burning bush. Instead, we will take this in, knowing that this is our life source, and showing and proving that we are this light. And so forth, we take this in. And beyond a shadow of a doubt of our proof, we will show that we are not harmed. Multitudes of many blessings to all that have been with us this far through the steps, each brick building our wall, which will one day be our house, which will one day be the castle, based upon the affliction we survive here, the burning bush. We will depart for a moment and then reconvene right here for after hours. Blessing.
Oh, so you want to totally cut off and then come back?
Yes, I want to show just a moment of having the burning bush as a
Blessing.
means of giving us that space. And now we will reconvene for beginning of our after hours section. I will bring forth Brother Eli once again, and we will continue the build a little bit deeper into the dive that we have brought forth through the liturgical part of our service here. All right. Quite the foundation this evening. So much to consider, so much to contemplate. There's no way that it would only be an hour and a half of time. And that's the reason why we come here for after hours, where we are able to kind of loosen our collar a little bit and show in our brotherhood in front of the world who chooses to watch us, and even those who seek forth our trial of time, of our virtuosity, and our excessiveness. And we will search and have that, that calling forth to the Godhead. All right. All right, brother. Gloves is off. Gloves are off, and we are here to go deeper. And I cannot wait to go deeper with you.
Brother Michael, on the last part, I mean, it's just amazing. I was like, oh, the brother just left it out because this is what you sent to me. It says, the candle cannot complain against the darkness and the harshness. You left that
Mhm.
part out.
That's
It
right.
instead admits to itself the it says then admits to itself that is everything it ever needed. So yeah, it does not see that's what I mean. I love that part. It doesn't complain against those who are opposite because they
Mhm.
have the right to exist with their own space.
Mhm.
So it does not complain against the darkness and the harshness. Just
That's
like
right.
us, we're just communicating the things that to us we may not agree with, but we are not telling people to not do what they want to do, but just please do it in your space. And the consequences, please keep those consequences or rewards in your space. That's it.
Mhm.
You
That's
know,
it. That's
that's
it.
it.
And the reason why I didn't even think about it being left out. I was compelled to say, nor did it ever has complained, because there's this idea that there was an iteration that it did. There were existences, that there were parts of this candle that did indeed complain, that it was too cold, or it didn't want to be responsible for bringing light to the darkness. That's the only one responsible for that. It speaks also in regards to its integrity, because Mother Teresa wondered God was even with her, and
Yeah.
still brought forth that excessive virtuosity. That's integrity there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a code that's being held there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same thing with that turtle pie, brother. It's,
Yeah.
it's, it's an integrity there.
Brother Mike, I don't know if I want to be on as long as normal because there are many layers to this thing. And one thing that I noticed is that um people, humans, not myself, but humans, um a lot of humans just don't know how to move in and out of the emotions biologically. They don't know how to look at the emotions biologically through their intellect and to move different. For example, I remember observing when I was younger a very powerful gentleman, and he allowed the normal folk to be around him constantly, producing the energy that these normal folks was on the same level as he or her was dwelling on or existing on. Therefore, their behaviors got a little more disrespectful because this divine one was around them. So the importance of God, how he will come around and distance himself because a lot of humans don't know how to maintain that level of respect when they are around a divine one. It's just something about human nature. They want to bring them down to their level when they are in the classroom to be on his or her level. Another example, when you read the Quran, there's a verse that God Allah told Prophet Muhammad that the people sometimes had to leave the house. They just can't, just compound, being around him all the time. And it's a sad fact, but that is a reality. And when you in management or employment, sometimes you don't want to be stoic. You want to be human. But once you, like I say, even like when you say, for instance, brother Mike, if you ever went to an environment that you were around men with a lesser caliber of being a goody two shoes, they may use certain words that offended you, even though it is normal or it was normal for them. You see what I'm saying? So you get dirtied up, if you will, and you have to cleanse yourself. Um,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
like I'm gonna give you another example. I remember when I was talking about energy, I noticed that you can go to the gym and lift weights and exercise for long periods of time, and you'll be okay. But if you went to a club where they're drinking and smoking all that kind, even if you did not participate, in drinking and smoking, you will still drain in like a filthy, like a way you gotta take a shower. You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? It's not the same type of draining. So that's what I mean. It is good to be mysterious most of the time, and it's good to always keep a certain distance because most humans will basically think like a child. If a parent is always around a certain child, a child eventually think that they can just talk and be and behave around that parent like they can with their friends, which is not the case because the parent is paying bills and even birthed the child. You see what I'm saying? So we
Yeah.
want to, have a certain balance. We open up, but remember, most humans are savages and uncivilized, and they will take what we are verbalizing on the internet as something to be offended about, or like we are judging them, or all this foolishness. And we don't need the energy. We got stuff that we want to enjoy. We want to enjoy the things that come from other entities and other beings. For example, I posted turtles. Turtles was saving another turtle. I mean, think about that. And you can watch the turtle stop swimming because the turtle flipped upside down, and the other turtles were panicked and they start going towards that turtle. And then
Mhm.
eventually that turtle stopped paddling because the paddling was preventing the other turtles from flipping it over.
That's
But you
right.
know, intelligence. The
Mhm.
turtle stopped paddling and then they flipped the turtle over. There's nothing wrong with birds of a feather flock together.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that. So until we are around those who have proven to love this reality on their own terms, because we're not into convincing people. We only want people who naturally desire, who want to be a goody two shoe type of person,
Mhm. Mhm.
who is excessive with trying. What is it? What is it? Excessive being what again?
Excessive virtuosity.
Virtuosity.
Mm.
So what is the definition of virtuosity? I
So,
have an understanding, but I want the
yes,
exact.
yes. I want to go and pull up that definition of virtuosity. However, most people, when they think of virtuosity or even the definition of virtuosity, they will not go to the dictionary. They'll go to the Bible. They'll go to Proverbs, uh, the last proverb, Proverbs 31, verse uh, 10 to the end. They'll go to that one, and they'll say that virtuous woman. So that awesome automatically mean that's the same for all species, and that's what virtuosity is. And those characteristics being that they have their own business, that they bring everything, they gird up their loins, they make of the work in the storehouses. They do all of these things in regards to caring for their family and honoring God. These are thought of as virtuousness. However, I'm going to give the very definition of virtuous, and I'm going to give many iterations of that definition because we are indeed evidence based. Virtuous, having or showing high moral standards. The archaic definition, which I know, Brother Eli, you love the archaic definitions because they tend to come from certain, just a different mode and mood, because archaic is thought of as something that is not used, but we will not ever not use evidence of and truth and fact and knowledge. There's no such thing as knowledge that will expire. Archaic says chaste, typically used of a woman. Here's the synonyms: virgin, maidenly, vestal, celibate, and abstinent. That's the archaic definition of
Vestal. What's that mean?
it. Vestal is the same as thought of as holy. So when we say vestal, as in the armor of God, a vestment, you have to have a certain level to adorn certain vestments as a holy person. I have two stoles, one of which was hand sold to me, of the different variations of thought regarding walks of life, from the big three to the earth-based practices, and being able to explain these as a means to bring unity to them. The other one being the Kemetic one was also handmade. This has letters.
A little closer. A little closer.
This has letters of hieroglyphics
There you
that
go.
speaks about some of the Kemetic kings and queens that are there. This is a holy garment. It's not meant for you to buy and purchase at a store. You are not able to wear this unless you earn
Right.
the right to
Yeah.
have that vestment.
Yes.
You can't buy this at Amazon.
Right.
You have to earn this. So when we speak of virtuosity, it is something that they are seeking to earn from God, to earn from the Most High, to earn from Yahweh, to earn from Yeshua, to earn from Allah. And even if they feel that there are times that they'll never succeed, as Mother Teresa ever so eloquently stated, that she thought there were moments where God was not walking with her, but still
That's right.
steadfast, excessive virtuosity, not a good deed for the day and then you're done. $5 to the homeless man and then continue being a savage elsewhere. No, oh, no, no, no. We're talking about even when you feel that there is no one around,
Mm-hmm.
you're still being in that element, that holy element of seeking perfection, of empathy, of intellect, of eloquence, of elegance. Regal. Regal's a very, very, very powerful word, regal, because that's a word for kings and queens. And we cannot allow here at the burning bush for every woman to call themselves queen and every man to call themselves king, for it waters down the idea of regalness. Prove your regality. Call the king or queen. Prove your regality. And even that type of king or queen does not necessarily say that you will be adorned a rock to place upon your feet like those in tuxes to win or peace the woman. It's a different type of vestment altogether.
Just think about that. I really want you to think about that.
Yeah.
Because we have the evidence of those who flip flops, and because I'm all about evidence.
Mhm.
Like, we have the evidence of someone who might been a nice child, became mean, and then became nice again. Think about that. We have the evidence.
Mhm.
But like you spoke about earlier, you spoke about the Hafiz. Hafiz are individuals who memorize the entire Quran, not just the opening, but the entire book. And we have children who know all the rap songs, every word. Like me personally, I remember, I mean, let's use me. I'm gonna talk about me. When I was younger in the ghettos of Los Angeles, I memorized every word to every actor in the Ten Commandments, the one that was out in the 70s. That movie is over 3 hours.
The Carlton Heston one, Charlton Heston one.
Exactly.
Yes,
Just to be the middle.
yes.
Also, I memorized every word to every character in the movie called The Greatest Story Ever Told. That was the old Jesus movie that was over 3 hours long
Mhm, mhm.
on my own terms.
Mm.
So now look at these children that memorized the entire Quran. We have those children. We have the other children that memorize these rap songs, these ghetto rap songs. Remember, we're evidence based. We exist on knowledge and not on belief. Characterize people by their actions, and you will never be fooled by their words. I watched a video not too long ago. A mother, I don't know if she was a mother or not, but it was three young children. They looked like they were 2 and 3 years old, and she had them smoking blunts, marijuana. Think about that. They were smoking a blunt. You even see the smoke come out the baby's nose. So you have a group of people who will say, only allow God to judge me. Only God can judge me. You are not better than I am. And that's why, like, I love evidence because I am really over exhausted with people just that talk. These people, I am not you at all. Even when I was in the ghetto as a child, I was not you. You are judging me. You are judging me. Why? Because if I choose to raise a child differently, your child, your ghetto child who is just a savage, living a beastly life, will attract itself to my goody two shoe child. So your savage child who is living a beastly life, because remember, we're dealing with humans, so the definition is about behavior. It's like when you talk to black people, you say the word ignorant, and black people get so offended over a word that says you just don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Because if you are a 2 and 3 year old and have the ability to smoke a blunt, you are not a civilized child. Period. You are out of your mind, literally, because babies' minds develop from 7 on up. So your mind has been harmed, your brain. These are facts. I watched a child told a woman in the classroom to shut the F up. And he know how to respond when she said, "Don't speak like that." He said, no, she asked the child, "Do he want to leave?" He said, "No, B." He know exactly how to use those words, and every adult who watched that child know that was very offensive. That was a child. I think it was a kindergarten graduation. But let's remove the emotionalism. So this beast that the parent created, the parent did it. So when I talk about this child, we are talking about the lineage of parenting, the negligence of parenting. Okay? Because we're talking about we are coming and we are in a state of high regalness. virtuosity to the highest level, apotheosis.
Yes.
And they said a 3-year-old who ate food and walked around and made a mess was uncivilized. That's the same level that we're talking about. So let's stay
Yes.
on that level.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are looking at a child who know how to smoke marijuana at 3 and 4 and 5, and they continue this behavior and they live in this environment, by the time they are in school age, their behavior will not be considered civilized.
No, not at
This
all.
child has been so demoralized that is unreasonable. So if this child chooses to bring a gun to school and shoot your child,
Mm.
will you say, "Oh, this child is such a beautiful child. Don't judge it"?
Hmm.
Now, mind you, this child thought this gun was a toy, and he came to school high on marijuana that his mother allowed him to smoke. Or maybe she didn't. She might be passed out on the couch with Maury Povich playing in the background. And the child is going to school and see a bag of marijuana or some blunts on the table and smoke it before it gets on the bus. And it may be a gun in the environment. You see, this is a
Mm.
reality. This is a fact.
Yes, it is. Yes,
And
it is.
you know what's so funny, Brother Michael? In this particular environment, some divine souls decide to be born in this environment. These goody two-shoers.
Yeah.
These people are disrespected by the mother, disrespected by the savage brother or sister, disrespected by their friends, disrespected by the savage auntie and Thanksgiving. All these people will just talk down on this child who may not like to eat pork or who may not like to smoke or drink or participate in these things. They will talk so bad about this child to the child has so much doubt within itself. That's why I have a right to talk about your raggedy self, your
Yeah.
low life, trashy self, your despicable one who need to be beheaded self. Because we have the evidence in 2022 of those children who had to live like that in the 80s. And your savage, trashy self do not have the strength to repair the damage that you have created. You don't have the money, the finances, nor the education to repair the damage. You will leave that to someone else. There are so many teachers who suffer financially because they are putting the money that comes out of their own pocket to feed your child, to educate and do certain things. So their individual life suffer because you refuse to try to be something that you know your soul would like to exist in. Because we hear your petty cries at night.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is
Hmm.
the evidence.
Yes, it is.
You do not like this savage child to be on the news because he was around a murderer. It could have been his friend. But he just happened to be around his friends. And you will be in court and you will have the loudest mouth, not all, but some. We're talking about that is not my son. That is not my child. It is impossible for them to do that. Despite the evidence, that means you're not even really should be in this conversation. We should talk about something else because this type of mind is such beneath reality.
Mm.
Because again, I'm talking about you. I have walked into so many black communities. These black communities they are demoralized, they're in shambles, they are destroyed. And a lot of these parents, mothers and fathers work so hard to get, and their children decide to live a lesser life, I'm looking at the evidence. So when you go into these black communities, which were vibrant in the 50s and 60s, where the parents worked so hard and they didn't have no education, and they own these homes, most of these neighborhoods are destroyed by your behavior that you do not have the fortitude to repair. So how can you have the nerve to talk about me or think foul of me over words over your actions that destroy many lives? So I can use any words I want to.
Mhm,
Go
mhm,
to hell.
mhm.
I can talk about many layers of this. I can go into many layers of how lives been destroyed over individuals who might brother Mike, a lot of these individuals were blessed to have parents to pass down homes and things to them. I wasn't
Mhm.
I wasn't one. When you go to most of these cities, do your research. Most of most black communities in America are destroyed. And look at what age group destroyed them. Because go back to the 40s and 50s and say a lot of these people worked hard to buy these homes in these neighborhoods. The land that I am on, someone purchased this because they didn't want to pay their taxes. And some had the nerve to get offended when someone buy the property, which they could not maintain because their parents worked so hard. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, brother Mike. And that's why in this circle and in greater circles that I'm gonna use God's words. When you come in, it will be a flame of fire to hit your behind in the face. Because look at America today. Y'all have caused so much damage, and a lot of you just died and left the damage. And these goody two shoers could not move on because they loved their loved ones. And they had to pay so much money and so much work to repair. And they cried at night because they deserve to be happy too. They deserve that their child to not be murdered in a drive-by shooting because of your savage child doing the shooting.
That's right.
That is savagery. That's wickedry. That is demonic. When you
That
see
actually happened. That actually happened two different instances. One of which was no, I believe both of them in time ended up being nationally accredited, given that its attention. One individual who was teenager killed 17 people, 17 individuals, most of them children, innocent children, and they, because of the government that he presides in, refuses to give this killer the death penalty by way of lethal injection. Another one, another
Mm,
instance, yes, yes, that's right. Another one, and we've done on a familiar build the difference between a killer and a murderer, but yeah, but another one of which that actually hit pretty close to home, literally 3 blocks away from where I reside currently, killed, murdered one officer and 4 other people, injured 2 others, 3 blocks away from me. It was nationally televised. He was only 15 years old and was caught with an assault rifle and was executing people execution style in close quarters. He would run up to them, articulate his aim, and fire at their heads. These were all headshots. He wore camouflage, and they circled, scout cars circled the block including the one that I live on, for 5 hours. Yet they apprehended him. I could go back into the race car and ask you a question you already know. What color were they? But I won't do that. We're talking about savagery here. We're talking about those who do not have a value in their own, yet in even other human life. When we engage in an environment with people who do not have a value for human life, it is just as cancerous as the secondhand smoke that you find in these nightclubs, though you do not inhale. Because you are in this environment, because you are there, you're subject to all of the effects of it. I do not know who was murdered by name. For the longest time, they would not even release the name of the murderer. But what I do know is something that happens to those goody two-shoers when something like that happens on the news, when something like that is documented that it occurred around them. They feel that as if it happened to someone close to them. There is a certain level of empathy that exists in the hearts of the goody two-shoers that feels for other people's pain. There is an unfortunate truth with this, though, because when environment becomes commonplace, when this becomes an every week thing, an every month thing, an every day thing, there's something else that happens. We lose our empathy and we grab an armor that features tighter skin. We become stronger and weaker at the same time, more stern, more bitter even, less loving. That's the reason why we create sacred spaces. That is the reason why we implore those goody two-shoers to create sacred spaces. That is what the mission is. It's what is needed to maintain the society that strives for excessive virtuosity. Proof that even though they might not feel God is with them, they have certain representatives, lower ups, those who are under that regality that they can find home in. It is difficult to establish a home from your bare hands, yet Brother Eli showed me an article that featured a man who built a castle by himself. And when he was asked how he built the castle, he said, brick by brick. We.
Remember that door that's like a couple tons? You can barely touch it and it will move. Yeah.
That's right. There is so much that we can learn from, that we can glean from architecture, how it was built. People can talk about Illuminati and all that all they want, but understand the allegory that is in masonry. It is a very beautiful and splendid thing. when you think about it objectively, when we talk about the geometry, when we talk about architecture, because that is a technology that is still worshiped, still thought of as God. Now, there's a part that I wanted to bring to light, but I knew it was way too deep for the liturgical part of tonight's build. It had to come in after hours because the gloves had to come off with this. We're talking about God. We're talking about who has made what their God. People who have made money their God. People who have made certain technology their God. Let's talk about this in regards to relationships. There's a question that was asked. Very, very interesting question that was asked. With all of the technology that we have right now, we have technology that can turn a woman into a man and a man into a woman as far as the aesthetics have debated upon and said that this is what it represents. We have certain tools that can do astronomical, acrobatical performances upon your private areas that no human being could even dare to imitate with such precision and such perfection that it would give the ultimate explosion of passion by yourself, that you could achieve it. And that this was thought of as a way of being safe. Again, we're gonna bring up hope too, but we're talking about this technology. Okay. We have a means where we can perfect our aesthetic appeal via apps. We have Photoshops, we have filters. We now have augmented reality that will create a filter as if we are wearing cosmetic makeup and personify ourselves as perfect under the spell of glamour. Again, we're talking about vanity, also another technology. So you have these savages who revel in their technology, their greed, their vanity. And then we have the goody two shoes, who for whatever reason is alone. And begin to question, what am I doing that's wrong when they're doing everything so right? And they're not allowed in their mind the possibility of having someone to love. Where do they go? What do they resort to? One would say it'd be safe, it'd be sound even to seek the savage technology. See, savage are only ignorant of certain things. They're very knowledgeable and crafty about a whole lot of other stuff. The cunningness it takes to lie, to be deceived, to play with the nonverbal language, to be so calm as to be able to pass lie detector tests when asked lies. All of these things in technology, and yet the excessive, virtuous one seems to be one that lives alone on that mountaintop. I wish that there is a way to put an end to all of it. But I will say that there is a choice and a chance to be made, not to go down to anyone's level, no, but to make yourself audibly seen as one willing to have said mate. One characteristic that I've come to find with those who are in their sacred spaces, very few of them, of the ones that I have witnessed myself, ones that I have collected upon by reading, will ever say that they are looking for a mate. They will say that God will provide. They will say that if he or she is for me, then she will appear. But I believe that we live in a world where such regality is so intimidating that those who believe they do not deserve said regality, those who are just as humble as the regal, will take turns saying that, man, I do not deserve you, and bow down in embarrassment, wondering, how are they not taken already? How are they not unified already? Or do I even deserve such a blessing as such an excessive, virtuous, goody two-shoe man or woman? I hate that that's a part of the path. I see it all too often, especially of those who have, throughout the test of time, have unwavered from, and have had to bear witness to the illusion of companionship only to fall to deceit, the hurt, gain. And it would be derelict of me to say, keep trying. One of them will be the one. No. Better it would be for me to say, the environment matters. Find the sacred space. Find your sacred mate in its element. Take that in. You will not find the one of your element and that high level at aisle 7 at a Food Lion. You will not find that person even inside of many of these churches. But these churches, a lot of them are not any longer sacred spaces. You must first identify the sacred space. And I can guarantee you, the ratio of those virtuous, excessive, virtuous, goody two-shoers who are already spoken for or have yet to have been spoken for will be in your favor, because we are few and far between in comparison to the world. The vast majority. There's 85% is way much more than 5. And even 10 is twice that number. So do the math. Find the sacred spaces. Make it audible and manifest through the word. You will have that mate. You will have something that will supersede the greatest of the most savage technology, the choice and the chance and the hope of those swans that forever ship. And I say that from my own experience. I person who believed I did not deserve the regality of said woman that I am with all this time. I had to come to a certain accord. I had to have a certain decorum in my spirit to find myself fit beside her, to seek out the cleanliness for me to deserve her. And the same shall be with you, the goody two shoes. Do not take one who scuffs his shoes and does not take them off upon entering the throne, one who disrespects your sacred space, one who does not see your cleanliness as paramount, as the Jews do, as the Hebrews, as we spoke in previous bill. I can tell you that it does exist. It is not the needle in the haystack that you might think it is. It does exist.
Blessings to all, because the knuckleheads get so much attention. So we spoke about the uncivilized children. I would like to talk about the civilized children. I am so grateful for the children who do not need to be micromanaged. I am so grateful for the teacher's pet. I am so grateful for the nerd with the glasses who drop his or her books. I am so grateful for the clumsy one who makes straight A's. I am so grateful for the ones that have the pimples on their faces and their hair may be kinky and out of style. I'm so grateful for the child who may be homeless with his mother but still gets straight A's. I am so grateful for the ones who know how to read and write, yet they wear used clothes. I love and adore the nerds. I'm so grateful for the ones who play these little video games. These games, I don't know the name of them, but I watch them at the library. They come together and these little nerds and they come together. I'm so grateful for you guys. I'm so grateful for the black girl who may be around uncivilized parents and uncivilized siblings, yet they decide to speak proper English. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful because again, you guys need to be loved and adored as well. We love you, we honor you, and we need you, and we hope and pray that God continue to allow you to grow through these thorns and weeds and these uncivilized folks that you decide to be born around, and you have the power and the strength to leave those environments. And I'm so grateful for those who don't feel ashamed, the ones who moved out the ghettos, who got away from their uncivilized mothers and things and fathers and things of that nature, and who may got a scholarship, maybe a track scholarship, but they went to college and continued their education, and they didn't allow people to use their credit and stuff like that. And they were, you know how to do things and spent a lot of times in the libraries and did their homework and did things what their parents asked them to do without a fuss and fight. Me personally, I think you're so beautiful, so amazing. Please continue to be yourself. We love you. I love you and appreciate you on so many levels. And I just want to give you guys some shine because I am tired of talking about the uncivilized children who do these things. Like this this thing put who murdered his grandmother and child and stuff like that just the other day. I don't even want to see these things no more if it could be possible. I want to get close. The older I become, I want to get closer and closer to the ones who play an instrument. When I take a little gentleman to a university to practice and he receives his lessons in piano, and I'm around those other children who might be his age, 11 and 12, and and some are in college and they be wearing their little suits, and I've been hearing them practicing in these small rooms, the violin, the cello. I mean, all they just so beautiful. You know, their hair may not be kept up nice. They may not have an appropriate walk, or their clothes may not fit properly, or they just might be clumsy, or just might have too many braces and slobbering all over the place. But I think you are so beautiful, and I honor you, and I want to give you guys more shine than the because again, it gets so much publicity. It's just sickening. When you read the Bible, it's all about the knuckleheads. It's all about those who got to be redeemed. Why we cannot learn about those who did it right? How we gonna know what's possible if we do not see those who actually did it right from birth to death? Why do we always got to get the story of those who need to be redeemed? They taking up too much space. It is trash. My books, everything around me is just full of their story. I yearn those who tried. That's why I have nuns. I look at those. I yearn. I don't play. I yearn for Mary. You know, I think they're beautiful. Um, so we want to give you some light as well, and I want to talk about some gifted children once in a while and the things that they do, like so because the other ones get so much time on this earth, they get so much. Um, everybody always got to hear about them, hear about the grandson that the grandmother had to choose in between eating herself or using her money to get medication, or got to feed her grand. Oh, come on. It's okay to hear those stories, but it's everywhere. I mean, how the next generation gonna know what is possible? And that's what I'm lacking. I'm lacking to really see those who just completely did it. I see quite a few, and I watch them and study them, and I think they're amazing. But a lot of them are so quiet and so secret. They don't publicize themselves. So on that note, good beings who might not be as attractive, but you be ignored by the attractive girl. You know, you even though you desire, even though you have flesh and you are attracted to this girl and she is so beautiful, yet she only wants the knucklehead. I feel for you, beautiful ones. As a matter of fact, even Mr. Peterson cried the other day about individuals who tried to do right, but they might not look a certain way, but they're denied their human experience. You have so many amazing, beautiful children, may have the thick glass. That's why I love wearing my glasses. They may have thick glasses, may be nerdy, and they may be attracted to this girl. And the girl may be attracted to them, but you know, in middle school, elementary school, they always go after the knucklehead ones. I mean, I even heard from my own mother. I mean, her grandmother told not to marry, my dad. Don't marry the guy. And she did anyway. I mean, we have an abundance of people being denied. What is wrong with the nerd sitting at the locker, um, lip locking and tongue locking with his girlfriend with their book bags? What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with the nerds. They may sit down, bumpy face, thick glasses, and crazy looking hair, but they at a table with other nerds and they decide to go to a beach and have secret moments within their circle, spin the bottle and things of like that. There's to me, there's nothing wrong with, because they're human too, but they're be denied. They be they're so denied. So, that's why we don't, I'm not into, oh man, let's have mercy on the other group. They got too much, man. They're getting too much. They just need to go and have their space. It need to be a big old fiery wall with flaming swords. Just push them so they can, because as a soul, they may need to learn those particular lessons. but they take too much of other people's time. You don't get your time back. You always got to help and save these souls. Then you look back and you don't have no life. So we don't got to keep repeating stupid stuff. So I'm going to show this, this
Mhm.
right here. Many books on marriages. One little book on
Mhm.
relationships. I remember this book. They have little games that you can play to see if y'all compatible.
I
Because
remember that book.
there's a
I
class,
remember
you got a
it.
little test. Go ahead, bro. I'm gonna show other books, but you gonna finish saying something?
I remember Date Smart. I'm wondering if you have Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I'm wondering if you have that one.
I don't
Uh,
think I have that
Four Love
necessarily.
Languages. I know you have that one.
I don't. I don't know how I have that one as
His
well.
knees,
But
Her Knees, that's another one that I've seen, but I've never read. But yeah, these are great books here. Safe Haven Marriage. Like there's something about that bond. Nine critical mistakes most couples make. Oh man. Without even reading that book, I bet you one of them is just the idea of communication, the perfect blend.
so
Ooh,
think about this, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about relationships
yeah, go ahead.
because this is the reality. There are too many examples in the world verbally that doesn't show other points of view. What is wrong with having two little nerds? One may have a full-time job at J.C. Penney's, and the other one may have a um work for city parks and recreation. Their total income may be $40,000 between both of them. What is wrong? Why they cannot say that she make 20,000, I make 20,000. We both work Monday through Friday. We spend our weekends going to church, praying to God, fasting, and then we save our money. And then after we save our money, we go on trips. We don't live beyond our means. She have a simple job, he have a simple job, but most of their quality time is spent together while they're paying their bills. These two, they make 20,000 apiece. Then they both get secure credit cards. They build up their credit. After they build up their credit, then they buy more an expensive vehicle within their budget because they have a greater credit. Their first vehicle, which they both use, is one vehicle that they both use might have been bought from a auction. So they working together. One work at J.C. Penney's, one work at Parker Recreation. They both combined income is $40,000. Now they have a simple apartment, but they loving each other when they got quality time. They spooning, watching good movies, reading the Bible, going to religious services, maybe feeding the homeless, going back to their simple jobs. But these jobs are not demanding. Their life purpose is demanding because they both want to return to God in their older years. So these same individuals, one working at J.C. Penney's, one working as a city park rec person, they both combined income is $40,000. So they got their first apartment. It may be a studio apartment, but they continue to go to work on time. And then when they get off from work, they may put their money together to buy some fun food, maybe a pizza or a soda, and they enjoy some movie. And then after the movie go off, they have to go to work, but they sleep together. They pay their bills. They got simple living. When some days on the weekends, they may go for a walk in the park or they may jog together while reading the Bible and going to church at their $20,000 piece job, which don't demand too much of their time. And at the same time, they building their credit. They building their credit up because you can build your credit up with secure credit cards, and every 6 months you can increase your credit score. And then they do this for 2 years, living a simple life. She loved to cook. He loved to cook. Therefore, they saving money. They're not spending money on restaurants and things of that nature. She cook him a good lunch when he eat lunch, and they just saving money. And then they use the envelope perspective, meaning that they put $5 here and there in the envelope. They set aside while they working. They're both $20,000 jobs, one at JCPenney, one a city worker. They continue this for 2 years. Now they're both of their credit scores is in the 750s. So they decide to get their first home. So here they go. They got time on the job. So she been at her JC Penney job for 3 years. He been at his city job for 3 years. They both making $20,000 a piece. Combined income is 40. So they get their first home with the first time buyers because you get a discount. Now they got good credit. They got stability at the job. They have time they can spend together because they're not in employment, stressing themselves out, and they're growing older together. They go to church. They give time to God. See, this is what I'm talking. This is why I've never been in a relationship because I've been around disaster and savagery, savages. Period. I know how to live a good life from my perspective that lives for long periods of time. So back to these two people because again on the job one work at JCPenney's and he's a city person worker. They working together. They have a combined dream of 50 years. So they live a simple life. They cooking, they spending time. Matter of fact, she learned how to sew. He learned how to sew with her. They make their own garments on their time. And again, they building. They go to the library because it's free. They may get free movies from the library, and they go back home together and eat her meal that they cook together because they got time to spend together. And then they cuddle. And then they hold each other while watching a Friday, laughing and giggling. They continue this and they save money. So now they're in the third year. So within this third year, they have went from living in their parents' home, find their first remedial job, one at JCPenney's, one as a city worker. They both combined income as $40,000. They got their first slum apartment. It was a studio apartment, maybe in someone's attic, but they continue to work these two remedial jobs. While they work together, they establish their job security and they establish their credit. So the third year, they got a pay raise within the same job. Now they may be making 25,000 a piece. So they now the combined income is 50,000. So when it's 50,000, they apply for their first home while they got job stability and they both got 800 credit scores because they built their credit up and they got little savings and they working together and they go to church and they live in their community, do work in their community, and they're consistent. So now let's go into 5 years. Now she becomes a manager and he becomes a little higher position. So now look at that. They get a second car. So now they have two cars because their one car they paid for 2 years straight on time and even early, establishing credit or establishing a foundation with the dealership. They still on their job. They've been on their simple jobs for 5 years, both of them. And then when you marry, you get tax breaks, amazing tax breaks when they're married. So now for 2 years or 3 years, they've been sewing together. They decide to get an LLC. They use half of their house as a business. See, look, let me tell you something. I'm not going to share more. But again, if you want to talk the wisdom, there are many ways to do excellent things if you love God and do the way God tell you to do. Work from a small level and then grow gradually. Because this couple can also do some things with taxes or property rights. When you get your LLC or nonprofit, Bank of America, other players will give you home after you have your 501c3 for 1 year. They will give you a home as a write-off. And then you can rent that house out because you and your beautiful wife started a church and y'all been together for 5 years. And that's why I'm saying the stuff that I've been dealing with, because I live a particular life that I can't force no one to do something. I've been around people who are so immature on such a low level, yet I have to sit back patient and be humiliated around these extreme disrespectful beings who come to someone like myself who is a minimalist and I live a particular lifestyle. And they come with lies and deceit and bring this disaster. Because when you love God, you live a simple life and you will grow with time. And all these people complaining all this money because there are penguins. But no, penguins do it right too. Penguins do it right because they live in nature. So I'm not gonna do that. Penguins do it. So again, I'm telling you, it's so many ways I ain't talk about because in libraries you get free movies because when you a loved one, we die because we spend too much time somewhere else that's stressing us out. And where are you going? All these people making all this money, all they're gonna do is get more stressed out because they're buying things and they losing time, which you cannot buy. Which is your right, but I'm talking about my space. And that's why I don't have time. I only got 5 years. I'm 50. I've been silent since I was a child. I knew this stuff even as a child. But I have, but for some reason I live by these codes, and I gotta deal with these uncivilized, unwise, just people that do so much destruction, and they do not have the ability to repair these destructions. All they want to do is say they're sorry, which is nothing because you can't give the person back their time because you deceive them. And then you lie on them because people looking at you, and the only thing you do is lie and try to make the other person look bad because you are the fraud. Because God said if you just take your time and be committed to it, God will bless you. And so many people want something here and now. These trashy souls. Let me tell you something. A shooting star burns. So you got so many people that they can start the journey, but they can't finish it because they're not of God. They of the devil because they bring confusion. So young people, if you are a ghetto, just some stinking ghetto person, and you stink and your environment stink and you eating chitlins, but you hate your environment, there is a way out. Both of you can. It's tough because y'all young. Y'all can start off at McDonald's together. Y'all can start off at Wendy's. Y'all can start off as working fast food together with your mate and do the same thing. And then this fast food joint will allow you to buy a franchise half price when you work a certain amount of time. Can you imagine starting at 16, you working at McDonald's from 16, 17, 18, 19? That's 3 years at the job. You become a manager, district manager. So you and your loved one, y'all can be a district manager 3 to 5 years, possibly at this one remedial job that people talk about. As long as y'all working together and building something and not trying to impress people. It is too. I am not in agreement with people that say they love a person, love God, but do whatever it takes to destroy a relationship by doing things that don't work. You need to have time together. Y'all need to have time to rest. You don't need a lot of money to live a good life. You need to be smart. You need to have a consistent life pattern. If you're consistent, you can enjoy your older years. It's this guy on YouTube. He worked as a parking he parked cars making $12 an hour.
Valet. Yeah.
Who?
A valet.
Yeah,
Valet.
tell the story, brother. But go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
No, no, no. Go ahead. I want you. I
No, no,
just
no,
want.
no, no. You know the story as well. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I want you to articulate it because the reason why I chimed back in is because there's something that you said earlier in
Mhm.
regards to time, and I'll get to that. But I want you to go ahead and build.
Well, this particular brother, you can look him up. I can't remember his name, but he was making $12 an hour. And he worked in a booth, and yeah, it was at a stock marketplace, but he paid off his home with his wife, and he sent his children to private school. And his portfolio, for those who know him from a financial perspective, his portfolio was $300,000, meaning that what he had in stocks and shares and stuff like that. And he started off collecting stamps, to learn stock process at the same job, working as a a person that at the meter and parking at the parking lot car place. There's so many ways, and that's what I'm saying, man. I'm around all these people that gotta. I mean, it's sickening. It's so sickening that people only see looking at the people in entertainment as a valuable way to live. It's so sickening because I'm at the point I'm looking at people and they relatives are dying and all these people that abandon good people over materialism. Well, I can't marry you because you didn't get a college degree or you don't have this certain job. But I'm gonna tell you something. All these people want to look back at those they did. I mean, think about this. From 0 to 13, you're really not necessarily worried about materialism. And then from 50 on up, you really worry about your health and keeping a peace of mind. So you only got a little time to worry about the $10,000 diamond ring or the $1 million home or the car. That stuff is so remedial to life. Yet you break up with men and girls for material stuff. I mean, you so ugh. I mean, it's like worse than vomit because they talk about Christ who was homeless. They don't talk about David. They need to be talking about David because he was, matter of fact, he didn't like his material stuff. I mean, you got so many people that just trash good, simple people because they didn't want these expensive things because they couldn't afford it. They didn't care about it. They may liked it, but they couldn't afford it. They preferred to say, look, let's get this cheap little house on 10 acres of land. We it may be a mobile home, but we'll spend 6 years in this mobile home with this land that we can make a swimming pool. We can protect our children in this place, but we saving money and then we can use the money to travel. So we making 60, 70, $80,000 a year, but we stay in a mobile home on 10 acres. And we decided to live for 6 years, and we saved most of the money. And then on summertime, we got enough money to go on. We go to Italy, we go to Rome as a family, and then we can homeschool the children. All this stuff is possible. We got all these trashy folks want to fit in with other losers. And the reason why you're a loser because in your deathbed you got so much regret. You lost because you thought you won. You lost because don't nobody like you. Because you spend so much time at a job trying to impress people and making so much money, and all you're doing is dying because your body hates it. We prefer people, we have a simple McDonald's job and a JCPenney job, but we're building something together. And we have so much time to get a bicycle, a two-seater bike. We want to read books and sew together, two-seater bike, and we grow a garden, grow our own food, and then we learn how to sew. We create things and then create a business. Simple, gradual process of life, but we have most time learning and dealing with each other. We can hug. Our bills are paid to the extreme. That's what I'm saying. So many people are so far off the mark. It's insane. And you are insane. Why? Because most people die of heart attacks and stress and things of that nature, have strokes, all these things because the body will let you know that you're a fool because you'll feel it, fool. Because fool is just a word. But what about you going to the hospital every day because you overexhausted yourself at jobs? Then the medical bill is going to say, look, I don't care about you, idiot. I'm going to take all the money that you worked for. Thank you. Bye bye. And then you can't pay your mortgage off because you got a 30-year mortgage. Idiot. Idiot. You and me and my beautiful girlfriend who work at JC Penney, she's an imaginary girl, and I got a city job. We bought our first home from an auction. And then we worked together because we love each other. We saved up money, went to Home Depot, and then bought parts here and there and built it up enough. And then we bought our first home by renting out that home. It could have been a duplex, a double. We stayed in one, and the person that we're allowed to move in stayed in one. And then that's a tax write-off because we are married. I mean, but we have so much time we can spend together because we're saving up so much money and we building up our credit and we praying to God and we're going to church and we got such a spiritual life and we got such a simple life. We like little goofy movies. She may like to fart. I like to fart. We farting together, digging up our nose because we are in our own scent. We in our own space. You see what I'm saying? We love ourselves. I love her cooking. We fast. We have disagreements, but we have a 50-year purpose and we gradually working together and we protecting our children and environment. Period.
I have to chime in because, oh my gosh, Brother, not only did you allow that divine energy within you to convey a story, a beautiful story, I am one to believe I am showing and proving that that is a true story. I was homeless when I met my wife. She has been an accountant since the age of 17 without fail. Had learned everything in regards to corporate taxes, business to business taxes, housing, incomes, how to create your own business, LLCs, all of the trimmings that you do get when you are married. And she found it in me, a spark that I didn't see yet, that I didn't think I deserved, that I bowed down to and said, I do not want to embarrass myself by insulting such a woman of regality, of excessive virtuosity. I was that man. And upon meeting this woman, for 3 months, I did not know what she looked like. All I heard was her voice. This is before iPhones. A homeless man should not have the ability to afford an iPhone. I did not. I had a little burner, a little $29.99 Boost Mobile disposable phone that I could only play Snake on. Give her my voice. And we spoke about plans and where we were going, of which I didn't have much of an idea that I would be going anywhere. But something she saw, the way I articulated my time, she said, you'll go very far. All you need is help in the right direction. A year, an entire year full of weekends where I would find my way, 4-hour bus ride to where she was to spend the weekend with her, with intent to do nothing but know more about her. Nothing carnal, anything completely innocent. Filled up a refrigerator full of food I'd never eat for children that I've never seen. For 1 year, that faithfulness calls for me to be gutsy enough to propose my love to her. And she said yes. Soon after, I find myself in her home as a very humble grocery bagger at a grocery store not even a block away from where she lived. From homeless, grocery bagger, basket cart grabber. I was outside all the time. She saw a vision that I could have an enterprise. Had no idea that it would actually come to fruition, but I believed in it because somebody believed in me. I had poor credit. I had a secured card I barely used, was afraid to use it. And those jobs went from that to developing a business that I thought would blow up on social media called The Cure, speaking about health more than these higher level things. And in that time, I was brought into the attention of many people who were seeking to be better versions of themselves. there was one individual who was seen as not a person, but an experience of energy, of matter. And this person said to me, as the gods would, in terms of time, I'll give you 7 years. Let's see where you'll be in 7 years. This God that I speak about has now seen me at my 13th year, at that slow build towards being better people together, towards a marriage that has a celestial plan of forevership that actually does, under the three dimensions in the palatable plan of the savings, that accumulation of learning below our means, even fasting together. And though we do not go to a traditional church, I made it a point to earn this, to be able to create a sacred space for her and I. And the table of contents that was provided of how to go about that simple life was brought forth today by the same God that gave me 7 years. This, the burning bush, is that true story. It's a story that I wouldn't believe it if anybody else would have told me, but I have to believe it because I see it myself. I am thankful, ever thankful for the challenge of time, for the experience of the Godhead of which I did not want to disappoint, ignore, or find defame or embarrassing. And because of that integrity, I too can say that I am a goody two sure, a pimple-faced bum of a nerd with glasses, of which I've upgraded, but have held steadfast and have seen God in people, that seen light in me. And there is no the end to that story. It'll always be another chapter. I am grateful for that too. A toast with water that most would deem not so holy, to the 50 years, to the test of time. May I take on that challenge and continue the true story of a simple life, of a righteousness that is unyielding, whether or not it is believed by both parties or either one that God is even walking with people, because it is meant to be so, because we say so, that we will come to pass the test. You're muted, brother.
To wrap this up, I'm about to read a little. To wrap this up and read little definitions for understanding of the words that we use, because we use words that mean things, and we're not in the environment for those who don't know the meaning of these definitions, and they still get offended, emotionally offended over words they really don't know nothing about. So the word this is for for a civilized man is civilize. It says having highly developed society or culture, belonging to a civilization, showing evidence of moral and intellectual advancement, humane, reasonable, ethical. Uncivilized mean wild and barbaric. People also use it to mean impolite. Barbaric, savagely cruel, exceedingly brutal, primitive, unsophisticated. Barbarian, a member of a community or tribe not belonging to one of the greater civilizations. Prostitute, a person, in particular a woman who engages in sexual activity for payment. Other, someone for sexual activity in exchange for payment. Apotheosis, the highest point in development of something. Accumulation or climax. Apotheosis, also called divination or deification, is the glorification of a subject to divine levels, and commonly the treatment of a human being and other living things, or an abstract idea in the likeness of a deity. Um, Virtuous, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil, all, not partial, all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly, not unwillingly or spitefully, but willingly with her hands. She is like a merchant ship. She bringeth forth food from afar. She raises also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. Whew. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good, and her candles goeth not out at night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretches out her hand to the poor, Yeah, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She is not, okay. She maketh herself covered with tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth her girdles unto the merchant. Strengthen her honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in her time to come. She opeth her mouth with wisdom, in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, that he praises her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellent them all, exceedeth them all. I think it's exceeded them all. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gate. That's heavy as I read it as an older person. That is um that is mind blowing to see what's out here in the world compared to that what I just read. Let me do this last part. Um, can remember when I was growing up, the most ghetto poor mother in the hood didn't accept her nephew gang money, even if her electricity went out. So I know power of good women. So you can't fool me with that stuff. You have some women. I'm telling you, you had some women back in the days, even on good times. You know, he was a trash person. You know what I'm saying? So I really exist on those type of older women. We call it the Coretta Scott King generation. You see,
Hmm.
spirituality is above religion, above science, above social creeds, holy book. Spirituality is about the Amen, the infinite unknown, the and Atum, the infinite known. Spirituality is about a love and understanding of the entire universe, and understanding that life is more than just what is here on earth. Let me say that again, those
Hmm.
who are blessed to be in a relationship that is committed to being divine souls together, that's beyond the flesh. Spirituality is about a love and understanding of the entire universe. Y'all can astral project together and do multiple things together. And understanding that life is more than just is what is here on this earth. So all the people that abandon good relationship over materialism and all this shooting star type of stuff, continue to enjoy your works because we're not here to judge. But you take up so much space. We are here to honor those who are willing to be committed because they don't have no space to be honored and praised. While all of you loving hip hop materialists, destroyers who don't have the will nor the knowledge nor the strength to repair the damage, y'all take up so much space. So we gotta honor those who want to attempt their best to is about a love and understanding of the entire universe, and understanding that life is more than just as what is here on this earth, but include all the multiverses and infinite dimensions thereof. All life is animate. All life is intelligent. We exist because everything else exists. Everything is one. Therefore, spirituality is about love and respect for all life. Spirituality is about an understanding so that one can maintain harmony with nature and self. The universe itself is a supreme life form. All life is animate, everything is alive, all life is intelligent. Intelligence is relative. So, all of you goody two shoes, we honor and respect you, and we hope and pray that you can find that happy love, or if you found a happy love, to maintain it and protect it at all costs. Because when all these other people come and go, you will maintain with that one at these older years that you can appreciate. So don't be discouraged by all these illusions and flashing lights that is not as permanent as being in a committed, fortified relationship. And to all the nerds and goody two shoes, we love and honor you and pray for your well-being and your protection. Continue to be a nerd and be corny and be a square and be all this kind of stuff and enjoy your books and stuff. So we honor you all. And thank you, because I'm fasting and I'm in the furnace. I'm literally on fire. For those who know who fast, I am in the blazed. So thank you for your time. And we choose not to offend anyone, but you should know by now, don't come in this space if we're not allowed to use words that have definition, that have meaning, even though if it's called a savage or uncivilized or a whore or a prostitute. These words have definition, and in a intellectual space, we are allowed to use words because that's how we communicate. Brother Michael, if I told you if my tennis shoes were red, do I need to physically show you my shoes? What color would be my shoes?
Red.
Blessing.
Blessings. One last definition, and we will part. And this one is for the circle itself. God. In Christianity and monotheistic religions, the creator and ruler of the universe and source of all moral authority, supreme being. Number two definition, a superhuman being or spirit worshipped of having power over nature or humans' fortunes, a deity. An image, idol, animal, or other object worshipped as divine or symbolizing a god, used as a conventional personification of fate, an adored, admired, or influential person, a thing accorded to supreme importance, appropriate to a god. By definition, praise be to God. Blessing.